Welcome back to another episode of Educators and Creators. Today's guest is Ocean Township's new Superintendent, Kelly Weldon. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So I'd like to jump right in, if that's okay with you.
Let's go.
All right. Where did you grow up?
I grew up here in Ocean Township. Oakhurst, went to the Dow Avenue School, and then this school here, and then off to the high school.
So, has Ocean changed that much over the years?
I mean, I think that the town definitely has changed somewhat. I think from my childhood to now, there's far more community celebrations. There's far more cohesiveness in terms of events that bring the community together. Joe Palea Park, when I was a child, was called Deal Test Site. So obviously that space alone has beautified our town and created events for our families and kids that really, I think, solidified a community spirit that was already there, but really just this brought it to another level. So, you know, I think other than that, I think you still have families that grow up here, people who grow up here and then want to live here and settle here and raise their kids here, and that Big Red tradition and that, you know, that feeling of being part of Big Red and the Spartan, you know, family is, I think, alive and well.
So what were you like as a student in the intermediate school and high school? How would you describe yourself?
So I would say at the intermediate school, I was a struggling student. I worked, you know, very, very hard to become smarter and to work harder to get better grades. I think I entered 6th grade, and probably like many students, it's a major adjustment. I attended 5th grade at the elementary schools. At that time, they were, you know, 5th grade was at Dow Avenue and Wayside and Wanamassa. So I think when you make that transition, it was tough, and it was tough for me. And I was in all sorts of classes to help improve my skills, my literacy skills. I was in today you call it the communications lab. I think it was called the writing lab when I was a student. I took that class at least 2 years here, maybe if not all 3.
Academic success.
Academic success, right. So, but by the time I left here, I was a much better student. You know, the experiences that I had here at TOIS really made me a better student. And I'm sure my parents hounding me and really keeping the pressure on really also helped. And by the time I got to the high school, I was a pretty strong student, and I was definitely an active participant of the school community. You know, wanted to do sports and clubs and activities, and the school newspaper was a passion of mine. So, you know, spent a lot of my spare time working on the school paper and was the editor-in-chief by the time I graduated. So, you know, that was one of the things that really fueled my passions when I was in high school.
So, yeah, it's one thing I've noticed about you. You're very motivated. You're a very hard worker. So that's something that started in those years where you just really figured out how to make things work, and that working hard would get you there.
Yes, absolutely. I think sometimes people look at me and say, she's so smart, and I always sort of laugh because I think when I started, I did not have natural intelligence or a natural smartness that other kids have, or I think even my brother had that, just, you know, on a personal note. I didn't have it. I had to work at it. So eventually I learned how to work hard to get what you want, and I think that's what I know how to do actually most of all. And I think I've become a little bit smarter along the way because I've been interested in information, and I've become a reader, and I absorb what I'm learning from people or books or video or what. In any format, I like to absorb information and sort of analyze it in my own head and be critical of what I'm hearing, and do I believe it? Is it true? Who's the author? Who's the messenger? Do I trust the messenger? All of those things that I think you probably teach our students today in your classes, because it's so important now because there's so much more information at your fingertips. But through that process, I think I have become a little bit more smart. However, mostly I know how to work hard. So I bring that to every position I've had.
So could you envision your career path when you were in high school?
So I had in my high school English class, I remember my senior year, I said to my English teacher, I'll be back here in 4 years, and then I'll eventually be the principal here. And she reminds me of it often. It was Mrs. Kate Wolf. And when I came back to teach with her 4 or 5 years later, she reminded me often that you said you'd be back, and here you are. I had a little detour. I started at Wayside School as a fifth grade teacher, so I did come back right after college, but first to the elementary school. And then I did go to the high school, which I really did believe in high school was going to be my path, that I would come back, be an English teacher, and eventually be the high school principal. That's sort of where my vision ended. I never saw myself in this role, or in the role I've just completed, the assistant superintendent role. I've loved it, but I didn't see that as part of the vision. But getting to be high school principal was absolutely a goal of mine, and something remember fondly and feel like it was one of the greatest experiences I've had.
Well, you just answered my next question. So you went from teacher to supervisor to assistant principal to head principal at the high school,
Right.
then assistant superintendent, and now superintendent.
Correct.
And so I was going to ask you what your favorite was, and you have a soft spot for the principal years, the head principal.
I do. I will say that the assistant principal years were also life-changing for me, and though I look back on those years very fondly, and I think I was a better principal because I had been the assistant principal. There was an opportunity to connect with students and families in that role, and to really be a resource of help and support and positivity in children's lives when maybe they might be struggling with something, or a family might be struggling with something, and to be able to be that touchstone at the school that families knew they could come to and talk to, or that I could connect a student to activities that I found so much joy in as a student myself. That was very fulfilling. But then moving into that high school principal role, was unbelievable. I felt it was a tremendous challenge. I wasn't sure if I was prepared for it until I was in it. And then I felt very quickly after just a few months that I was the right person at the right time, because I do believe timing is everything for the role. And I think we did a lot of great work there. Students, teachers, administrators, parents, as a community, I think we really came together, and just something was happening there in the community at that time, and it was great to be, right in the midst of it all.
So when you see what's happening in the district now, as you walk through the halls, are you sometimes just amazed by how far teaching has come in the last 20 years?
Absolutely. I think just even the name of this podcast, or just the fact that we're sitting here doing this, is evidence of the innovation that I think really started about 8 or 9 years ago, 10 years ago in this district, where we really made a commitment, and there were so many teachers excited to join in that journey, to just sort of get the desks out of rows and kind of put the textbook on the shelf and pull it out as needed, and use it for use it in the right time at the right place, but to also realize that there was information everywhere, and there was ideas and creativity that we could bring into the classrooms and change that classroom environment, and connect students to authors and scientists and doctors and surgeries, live stream surgery where students could be in an operating room. I mean, it's tremendous. Yeah. It's tremendous. So it really is just wonderful to see.
Do you ever feel as though we've gone too far with relying on technology? Would you like to see a little bit more balance?
So I don't know if I think we've gone too far. I do think that the best lessons are grounded in skills and strategies that a student is attempting to acquire, or a teacher is leading the students to acquire certain skills and strategies. Now, I think sometimes the textbook does that for you very, very well, in a very concise, understandable, chunked way for a student. I also think sometimes the technology does that. And I think the beauty comes, or the finesse comes with the teacher that you need. You cannot remove that piece from this equation, knowing where to direct the student when. and that
Right.
it can't all be one or all the other. You won't get the education that you can from the collection of resources.
I agree. So at what point did you coin the term Spartan legacy, and what does it mean to you?
Okay, so I've told this story a few times, but and I like to get it out there. So thank you for asking me this question, because a lot of people attribute it to me, and I am, I love that, and I was definitely part of it. But I have to say, this was a complete team effort. I was the principal at the time, and I was working with Mrs. Hagerman, who was the new assistant principal at the high school, and she was working with an administrative intern, Mrs. Terleski, an English teacher who was going through her her schoolwork to become an administrator. And we were working on the freshman orientation, freshman academy pamphlet and presentation, and just the theme of that presentation and what we wanted to say to students. And together, we were all together in Mrs. Hagerman's office working on a concept, and Mrs. Terleski had said to me, Mr. Terleski and I were talking about this concept of building a legacy and just everything around that. And in that room, it came out Spartan Legacy. And I immediately loved it. I thought this was exactly what we needed, because at the time we were hearing a lot of people say, parents, students, that they didn't like school, that they didn't like the community. There was negativity for some reason. And I kept sort of working hard at, how do we change that narrative, right? It's our job to write a different narrative and to make people feel differently. But I also felt like I can't do this alone. One person could never change this completely. And that concept, which the teachers, I have to credit, the teachers took such ownership of, they also quickly embraced it and infused it into what they did in their classrooms, that everybody else bought in, the community bought in, the students understood that. So to answer the second part of your question, what that means to me is you come into this school and you assess what it looks like, how it is, what the energy is, what the attitude is, and you have a responsibility to make it better than the way it is right now, so that when you leave here in 4 years, you will have left your mark on this school and made it better. And people believed in that, and everyone worked very hard to be part of the solution, not just to come forward and complain about what wasn't right, but let's be part of the solution. And with teachers and students would come to me together, and it was obvious to me that they had been working for a few days beforehand and then asked to come see me and had these ideas of, can we do a Halloween decorating wall contest? Can we do a pep rally? Can we do a this? Can we do a that? We're going to be part of the committee that develops it. We'll do all the work. We just want you to tell us that it's okay for us to do this. And that's how so much happened in a short amount of time, because everyone wasn't just looking to the administrators to create these things. They were coming up with them themselves. And I think because they worked at these activities or these events or these changes that we were making, they felt a sense of ownership and pride in what we did, which was wonderful. And I'm happy to see that it's carried on, and I don't want the message to get lost, because it is about being part of the solution. If you don't like something, your legacy is to change it and to make it better for the next group of students that come along.
So, what would you like your Spartan legacy to be?
I would like to leave the district. By the time I leave, I would like to leave the district in hands that are more capable than mine. I believe that is the best thing that you can do, is to coach and train other people to take a place further than you were able to take it, right? My skill set is what it is. I continue to grow it, but it has a limit to what I can do. And when it's time for me to go, the people that are coming up behind me will have more ideas. They'll have more vision for new things or more modern things that perhaps what I can understand or see or vision is limited there. So I really hope that when I leave and when I move on, that there are people ready to take over, to step in and immediately be better than I have been, because that's what's important about continuing to grow and to have a district that is on the cutting edge of preparing students for their future. I think on a day-to-day I work on that. I look at what can our schools do differently, or what do we need to do differently to be certain that we have prepared students to be competitive, marketable, prepared for the life they will be living, the adult life they will be living. So that's what I work on. But what I hope is when I leave, that there are people ready to take over to do it far better than I ever could have, to take us to the next level.
So you answered a lot of my next question of what your goals are for the district.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything you want to add to that you haven't touched upon?
I think we are, I think on the coming out of a pandemic, I think there's some pieces of us that are hurting. There are pieces that may be broken. There are things that we used to do that don't necessarily fit in our current reality. And I think as a staff, and then also as parents and students, we're figuring out what this looks like. So certainly a goal of mine would be to help to heal as quickly as possible so that we can together envision what the next steps are for us as a district, or as educators in general. Like, where is education going? And I think we were a certain way, and we were very good. We were very strong before the pandemic. We entered into the pandemic and we did well there because we were so prepared with technology and innovative, creative learning environments. I believe Ocean Township did incredibly well through that time. When I speak with other colleagues and look at what other districts had in place, we did very well. And now we're coming off of it though, and we're adjusting back into somewhat of normalcy and school the way it was, but we don't want to go back to exactly the way it was, right? We're in a new world with new knowledge and new information, and we've learned how to do things remotely, and long distance, and maybe that's connected us even more. So I don't want to see us go back to anything remote. That would be, not anything I hope we ever have to do, but we have skills now to connect with people that are not right here. And I would like to see us continue to grow and implement what we've learned moving forward, but also heal and get back to that community feeling instead of, we were separate from each other for so long, and I think that has had some negative impacts on some students and teachers and administrators and parents and everybody sort of, healing from that. So I certainly would like to be part of that process and get us everyone to a feeling of strength and ability to focus in on education and find strengths and passions and pursue those through our school system.
So what advice do you have for young people who aren't sure which direction to go in? And you can also incorporate some of your, attributes of success that you think has helped you get where you are today.
Sure. I think it's normal for students to come to school sometimes and feel a little bit of a disconnect, or not really sure where they belong, or where they fit, or what they want to pursue. I think that's normal. And I think what you have to do is keep exploring your options. I think our district provides, particularly here at the intermediate school and the high school, so many different offerings. I think that don't shy away from challenges. That's what I would like to say to the youth today. Don't shy away from challenges. If you struggle with walking into a club and not knowing anyone or not knowing where you belong, do it anyway. Walk through the door. You're going to find friendly faces behind that door. You're going to find a teacher who wants to include you and wants you to become part of whatever organization that is. A team, a club, extra help, whatever it is. Keep connecting to the school. Go beyond the school day and get involved some way, because I believe that through that you will learn different skills that are important in life about how to be part of an organization, how to contribute, how to work towards something that you're unsure about. And also you may find some lifelong friends. You may find a passion of yours, something you didn't know you were good at, but oh my goodness, here I am and I'm working on this and I'm actually very good at this. So let me do more, pursue this further. So I would just say that to take every opportunity to connect to the school in any way that you can, because there are coaches and teachers and mentors and advisors along the way that want to see you be successful, that want to see you reach your full potential, and they're just waiting to help you. So just walk through the door and take your chance on an opportunity.